Okay, we are live. Thank you for coming. I am the real_G Warner on Twitter, going through the European soccer slate for this weekend as we are getting closer and closer to the end. And hopefully going to end the season on a good note. Going to go through each match of the weekend. I have made my own lines previous to this, but I have not looked at them myself just yet. But without further ado, let's start where the money is, and that is in England. So English Premier League on Saturday, May 15th, opens with Burnley hosting Leeds. Currently, Burnley getting a quarter of a goal. And Leeds has looked like they've had some up and down performances lately. I don't know if that's a result of tired legs or I'm not necessarily sure what the issue is, but it seems to me that they play really well sometimes, and they've played pragmatically, whether it was red card induced or if they've done that intentionally against some of the bigger sides. Can't really explain how Brighton has dominated them this season, won both of their meetings, both of their fixtures, home and away. But I think it's just one of those things where Leeds, they had a good showing in beating Tottenham last time they played. Burnley, on the other hand, we know what we're going to get from them. They're going to sit back, try to defend, launch long balls over the top. I don't necessarily know that Leeds are the perfect situation for them because as an underdog better, I'm interested in Burnley here. But ultimately, only getting a quarter at home with the defense has been really questionable. That used to be their calling card, but has not been for about a month or so. They had a fairly easy win against Fulham, but Fulham had a ton of pressure, must win, and hadn't scored goals all season. Leeds, on the other hand, are not going to really be punished by Burnley for pushing forward the entire match, in what it seems like to me. Also, Rafinha might be back to start, and he seemed to be a pretty important asset for them. So I think at this point, I'm going to let this one go, even though if I had to gun to my head, I'd play Burnley. Next, Southampton host Fulham in a battle of teams that probably both could get relegated. Southampton finally got a win. They, I think, were the worst team in Premier League entering last weekend in the second half of the season. And that's been a combination of things, that mainly not having a backup plan when your starters get injured. Maybe it's also an issue with the depth of the team, certainly is. But Southampton falling behind 1-0 in the first or second minute, and then saving a penalty really kept them in the match and ended up getting them the 3 points that I think clinched safety for them, though I think that might have already been clinched anyway. So it was a big win, and currently Southampton is a half a goal favorite to Fulham. Fulham now relegated. Pretty much everything at the bottom is settled in England, which is a little bit disappointing because I think the relegation stuff is the most interesting. But Southampton currently giving half a goal, all the juice on the Fulham side. I'm interested in Fulham. The problem is that I don't know how you can rely on them to score. Southampton will certainly give them opportunities with a high line and playing in some really silly fashion based on their personnel, but that seems to be Ralph Hasenhüttl's way, and he's not going to change. And Fulham, on the other hand, might not play as defensively, which is, now that they know that they're relegated, but I think that also might be a concern because that might leave fragile defense from the beginning of the year before they changed to a really all-out defensive tactic, with then hoping to score some goals by dumb luck or chance. It's probably why they're relegated. But ultimately, getting a half of a goal from a team that really struggles to score and struggles to win is a big deal. Danny Ings' return has been huge. They've seemed to be somewhat competent offensively. He had a big goal to equalize in the first half, and then they had a great set piece, which is what they're certainly known for, or the only way that really they've been able to score without Danny Ings producing, and then got a third goal or whatever late. But ultimately, Fulham, I just don't know, because if they start basically giving as a beach team essentially now because they're relegated, that they really try to show themselves for Premier League contracts or moving back to your home club and not getting loaned again, it might be one of those situations where Fulham is just a team you don't want to back. But if there's ever a time to back them, it's against Southampton. Next is Brighton hosting West Ham, currently a pick 'em with all the juice in the West Ham side. Looks like if anything is going to climb to Brighton getting a quarter. Getting a quarter is interesting because West Ham has been, I would say, pretty unloved by the market for a lot of the season. They've completely outperformed that market, I guess, opinion on them. And they've been, I think, a lot better than a lot of people expected, but are now pushing for Champions League, have to win. And that kind of forces them to abandon their defense first kind of mantra from this season. And that's not a good thing for them. But they have climbed up the table, are way better than fighting relegation like they were last season. Moyes has shown that he's going for it. I mean, it's starting to feel like they were very fortunate for a lot of the season to be where they are. I mean, they had that huge comeback from down 3-0 at Tottenham or wherever it was against Tottenham, and then kind of went the other way and blew a 3-0 lead on Arsenal, and then also struggled to get through Leicester and a bunch of others that they've also struggled to get through because their defense kind of seems to go when their offense does score. But in this scenario, I think that there's a reasonable opportunity or belief in West Ham that they're still a really good club. And Brighton has shown that they're great at possessing the ball and not doing much with that possession. If they start to get a quarter, I think I'll be a little bit more interested in Brighton. I think to win this match, I'm not that interested in backing them if a pick'em results in a push when they draw. But ultimately, Brighton will control the ball or will try to. West Ham, I don't know that is that much of a possession team. So I think that does give Brighton the opportunity to try to possess the ball and try to create as much as they can offensively. They do, I think, have I think it's Dunk, one of their captain center back, suspended for getting a red card for this match, which is a big deal. But I think they've shown playing Dan Burn out of position as like a left back when he's like 6'7" or something like that. I think he can fill in and slot in quite nicely at center back for them. So I'm not all that worried about it. And then the West Ham offense, it seems to be Mikel Antonio, who's been awesome. But coming back from injury, didn't really do much in the last match. Looked good in his kind of debut or his return. But I think there's some questions about the West Ham offense. And as they move to a quarter goal favorite on the road, I think Brighton is interesting. I'm not sure it'll make my card, however. And then staying on Saturday, because I think I skipped over the FA Cup final. Chelsea's currently giving half of a goal at Wembley. It's about 1-2 to advance or to lift the trophy. Leicester has been so bad lately that it's hard to really want to back them as an underdog, even in one of those cup matches, which tend to play closer, it seems to me, than when you're trying to battle for 3 points. Chelsea should have a response to an awful, atrocious goal given up to Arsenal and a loss over the midweek. Starting to wonder about maybe Chelsea's motivation, though that match certainly was still important for them to clinch a Champions League berth. That loss didn't help, and I think probably could have been telegraphed from maybe a little bit of a letdown after the big win against Manchester City, the second straight win against them. And then also, I mean, it was some bad play, and they had the ball basically the whole second half. It couldn't really create too many chances, but they did hit the crossbar twice in a flurry of action. So maybe it's not that bad of a loss. It's just what happens when you're trying to score on a defense that's really only defending, and that's all they care about for a half, and that maybe will happen from time to time. Still some demerits, but ultimately maybe not as bad as we would think. Currently getting a half of a goal. Leicester's just been playing so poorly. When you're down 4-0, whether it's luck or what have you against a bad side like Newcastle, I'm just not sure you want to back that. Playing a team like Chelsea, who's not really going to let you score. Leicester might have the opportunity to try to get in behind with Jamie Vardy and use his speed, but he hasn't shown up for a while. Iheanacho has been in great shape, but I feel like his goals a lot of the season have kind of come when he's had space, and Chelsea's defense doesn't seem like it's one to allow that. So should be interesting to watch, but I don't think I'm going to have any play on that, despite pretty healthy underdog in a cup match. Moving to Sunday, Crystal Palace getting a quarter from Aston Villa. I don't think Grealish is playing, so Aston Villa's offense has been pretty questionable without him, to say the least. A little bit different scenario here, though. Crystal Palace with that awful collapse against Southampton. They've kind of shown that they're not very good. They can get some wins. They can stay in the league. They do have some bright spots athletically, but it doesn't seem like they really do much. Have nothing in the midfield that can create. It's basically Eze trying to feed someone, or a set piece, or a mistake from the other side seems to be how they score. But getting a quarter at home with all the juice on their side, and I must note that, as it might look like it's going to trend towards pick'em. Aston Villa has shown that they can play defense this year, but without Grealish, they really struggle to create. They should get the suspended forward back for this match. That's helpful, Ollie Watkins, and that helps because he seems to press as energetically as almost anybody in the league from the forward position. So maybe I don't know that they're a worthy favorite here because they have to win on the road based on this price, but there's not a lot about Crystal Palace when they blow leads to Southampton, who haven't won in forever, and losing that match means they can certainly lose at home to Aston Villa here as well. Next, Tottenham hosts Wolves, giving a full goal right now with most of the juice on the Tottenham side. Wolves have been pretty good against the spread recently. They've let some wins slip or had to come back against Brighton with 10 men to come back for a victory. Defense has been a lot more solid for them. They're still, I think, their offense leaves plenty to be desired. But in this matchup, Tottenham have pretty much shown that they're going to go for it. Ryan, whatever his name is, the new manager, slipping my mind, but probably not that important anyway. He's been playing all of his attack players at once and trying to score a ton of goals, which seems fun. I think it's cool for Ryan Mason, I believe. Seems cool. Seems like a lot of people care about that or would like to watch their team score. I'm not sure about legs and things like that of Dele Alli and Gareth Bale, who barely played under Mourinho. But ultimately, Kane and Son are an incredible combination, are really hard to defend. Wolves are going to be in a position where they're going to have to fight against those for the entire match. Do I think Tottenham is that much better than Wolves to be giving a full goal? I'm not sure. I think Wolves with that type of price is worth a look. See what happens with this number, especially if more money comes in on Tottenham when everyone sees Gareth Bale in a lineup and everyone gets really excited about that. But ultimately, Wolves have really been a lot better more recently, maybe because Nuno has been worried about his job, or maybe just he finally got through to them, or they're playing for contracts or whatever. I'm not sure the reason, but they've been a lot better lately. Defense has really improved, and they've been able to kind of find some goals, which are surprising, but happen. Next, West Brom host Liverpool, getting a goal in 3/4. Liverpool need wins to try to get as high up the table as possible for Champions League play, if that's still even an option. I think it should be because Chelsea lost. But West Brom relegated. Big Sam's defense didn't really seem to work, but they've been playing in attacking fashion for a while, so I'm not sure really that even mattered to him too much. But I'm not really that interested in trying to get in the way of Liverpool, though Liverpool have really shown that they struggle to score goals. Just West Brom is not the side to make it really hard on them to score, I don't think. And then lastly, in England, to close this week up, Everton giving a goal and a quarter to Sheffield. Sheffield also relegated. Everton, though, have not been able to score at all. They have looked pretty bad with two forwards that try to essentially steal the ball from each other, won't pass. Richarlison, the last match, had a bunch of chances to set up Calvert-Lewin, didn't do it. And then Calvert-Lewin didn't set Richarlison up when they had opportunities. It's kind of hilarious how two forwards can basically play against each other, wearing the same colors, going the same direction each half. But that's how it is. So currently Sheffield getting a goal and a quarter, even on the road, is interesting to me. They've been playing, they care. They've been showing that they're trying to play to leave their mark on the Premier League as they head down and maybe never see Premier League again in those players' careers. Sad story, I guess, ultimately, if you're a romantic, but it is what it is. And getting more than a goal here is a lot from Everton, who have really been terrible at home. Not that really matters because it's not that any any different really besides getting on a train to go on the road. But they have had real trouble scoring. 1-0 seems like a fairly reasonable result here, where you'd win half a unit back in Sheffield, and who knows where this actually closes at. But if it climbs or something like that, I think Sheffield is even more interesting. The problem is that they can't really score. Everton can't though either. And then really how much is that different? And then if Everton does get a 1-goal lead, no matter really when it happens, but that second goal is more likely to go in than that first. And I think there's enough question about a relegation side that you're not really sure if they're going to play much defense, or that maybe they'll eventually be like, well, we only got a couple of matches left. This really doesn't matter for my career or my life. I'm just going to take it easy, or try to score goals, try to make an impact and get a goal on my ledger or my resume or something like that. So that's more than enough on that match. And now I'm going to move to La Liga. So in Spain on Sunday, we have Athletic Club Bilbao hosting Real Madrid. That's a big one for at the top, as Real Madrid seems to be the only one really challenging Atleti at this point. Athletic Club with a disappointing loss, but ended up closing like a pick'em, I believe, in their last match, I think to Huesca in the midweek. Whereas Real Madrid took a 2-0 lead on Granada, gave up a goal, and then looked like a little bit shaky at 2-1, but ended up getting 2 more to really crush everyone's spread. If you bet Granada, I'm glad for once I didn't feel the wrath of those late goals, add-on goals at the end. So Athletic Club, they want to play defensively and try to counterattack, use their pace with Iñaki Williams. He hasn't been starting a lot lately. Lineups have been interesting. I feel like they've been playing the kids ever since they became safe and didn't really seem like they had a real shot at Europe, though I'm not sure that they ever really considered themselves out of that European chase with all these new leagues popping up and et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's one of those things where they've been playing the kids a ton, maybe trying to get them some experience for next season, which I can't blame them for. But here with Real Madrid, with all the juice on 3 quarters, looks like this is going to climb to a full goal. And I wish San Mamés had some fans. I don't think that they will for this match, but that might make it a lot harder for Real Madrid, who do have the pressure of trying to keep pace and really set the pace for Atleti, though they're playing at the same time on Sunday. Athletic Club, they bossed Atleti around really at home in the same kind of situation a few weeks ago. And I'm not sure Real Madrid, I mean, their defense has been great. I'll give them that. Their offense has been really a lot of kind of no names finding goals, a lot of times late in matches, and Karim Benzema, who's there throughout doing awesome things. And as it starts to climb higher and higher, I think I like a side that wants to play defense and wants to play on the counter, and that to be that, or for that to be their normal style of play and how they want to play. I think that's most important for if you're going to go against Real Madrid. Next, I guess all these matches are at 12:30, so Eastern time. So whatever, they're all playing at the same time. Next, Atleti hosting Osasuna. Atleti currently giving a goal and a half. They came out on fire against Real Sociedad, then got up 2-0 and really held on for dear life, which is a crazy juxtaposition for how things started and then how things ended. But they're if they're going to play like that and really attack, I think they either got tired or something happened where they weren't able really to kind of do what they did initially or early in the match. And it's one of those things when Simeone takes a lead, he likes to sit on it. That I guess in the past used to happen with 1-0. Now it seems to happen 2-0, and it costs some bettors at least a piece of their winnings. Because I think it closed 3 quarters, or if you were willing to pay the juice, you got a full 1. So I think you got to be worried about that here. Osasuna really have shown that they can play with a lot of these clubs. They just don't finish a lot of their chances, and they don't get many chances. So those are like a couple things working against them. That's for sure. I think Atleti are going to be feeling a ton of pressure with Real Madrid. Barcelona doesn't seem to be totally with them at this point, but I do think it's something that they're looking over their shoulders, and ultimately a 1-0 lead or a 1-0 victory is enough for them. So getting a goal and a half is interesting on Osasuna in that situation. But But as I've continually point out, that second goal is much easier to get to the first. So if you're going to back Osasuna, you're either going to expect them to score, potentially take a lead, be drawing or something like that till late. It's just going to be really hard if they're up 1-0 to try to stay in front of Suarez sitting at the center line, just waiting to spring a counterattack and really not coming back to defend, because they got enough, I think, defensive players besides him that can really kind of help out. And that's probably more than enough on that match. So then I'll move to Barcelona and Celta de Vigo. So Barca giving 2 goals right now at home. It's a big number. They haven't been able to cover this like at all recently, from what I recall. They're in one of those scenarios where they must win. They've been in that for a while, though, and that hasn't helped them to hold on to leads or really do a lot of those type of things that you need to do if you're going to try to win your domestic league. They were 2.25 goal favorites to Granada, took a lead, then ended up losing the match altogether outright. I think Barcelona's had plenty of problems this year. They've been able to score a ton of goals, which has certainly helped them in the eyes of a lot of people. If they're scoring a lot of goals, they look pretty. People want to follow them, et cetera, et cetera. But Celta de Vigo have shown that they could score goals too. Problem is that Celta doesn't seem to play much defense, and they're probably going to play the way Barcelona wants to play. Celta de Vigo is in a fight for one of those European spots, but they're a little bit out of touch despite a couple of wins recently. I guess maybe they're not out of touch, but it's going to take a lot for them. They have to pass a few teams to get into European places. And I'm pretty worried when teams want to play with Barcelona and try to be open. It worked for Granada a couple weeks ago. Celta de Vigo, though, is one of those sides that can get demolished and might here. They were getting a full goal from Villarreal coming off the Arsenal Europa League advance to the finals. So this line isn't like crazy by any means, like way higher than it should be, I don't think. Most of the juice is on the Celta Vigo side, but I believe that's because when you get to 2, that seems to happen is people in soccer don't want to bet someone to win by more than 2 goals, because you're ultimately pushing for most of those matches, it feels like. But there's not that big of a discrepancy here. Like Atalanta and Serie A has been giving 2 goals to a lot of teams for a while, and that's because the bottom of Serie A has been pretty bad, and Atalanta has been so much better. Celta de Vigo is not a bad club in La Liga, so getting 2 is a huge number. It might be one of those hold your nose, just pray that they lose by 1, but I think they have enough goal scoring ability that might not even need to happen. Next, Cadiz host Elche. Currently, Elche with it's pick'em, but Elche is favored with a whole lot of juice on their side. Massive, massive number that kind of surprises me, to say the least. And when this ticks to Cadiz getting a quarter, I don't know how I'm going to avoid that, because ultimately, like, I don't really know what more to say than Elche really struggles to win. They are fighting relegation, look like it's going to happen because they haven't really won enough matches this season. And when that happens, or if you can't win, like, you really shouldn't be favored. And Cadiz have been incredible. They deserved a ton better, had a ridiculous handball in the last match. La Liga, they just give penalties. That's what the referees sign up to work that league try to do. It's clear at this point. But I guess that is what it is. I can't wait for this to get to a quarter, because Elche, while they do need it, that doesn't mean anything in terms of moving forward and trying to win matches in soccer, unfortunately. But the market seems to love teams that need to do things, must wins, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't work in college basketball in the US, doesn't work really in anything, it seems like. Alaves then give a half of a goal to Granada. Granada is a better side that has been playing a ton of matches with their run in Europa League, and there's always questions about how much they want to play defense. Alaves has been playing a lot better lately, but this is a big number and kind of a seismic change from where they've been in their lines in the past. This is their third manager who's been better, but has been more pragmatic than the second one, who's trying to go out and outscore people. Alaves look like they're getting closer to safety. Certainly, I think a win would probably do it for them here, because the teams chasing them in the relegation battle certainly aren't winning. But Granada is worth a look. I mean, they played the last match of the week or midweek, and so that's going to be tough on their legs. But they're so deep in the midfield that they have so many players that they can throw in there that you really don't see much of discrepancy when they go to their bench. Their forwards are a bunch of kind of older guys that can score, and so whoever wants to go in there can play. They'll be able to score if they get a good chance. And Alaves, with most of the juice right now at -0.5. I'm curious to see if who plays in net for Granada, who plays goalkeeper, because I believe Rui Silva is moving to Real Betis, and so they've been playing their backup keeper, and he definitely had a miscue picking up a back pass that ended up giving a indirect free kick inside the 6-yard box, which ended up losing them the match against Betis last, I guess, 2 matches ago. Brutal, especially if you bet Granada. But ultimately, it's one of those things that happens, and I think he's been pretty solid from when I've watched him play. Getafe then giving 3/4 of a goal with all the juice to Levante, with almost all the juice on their side. That's crazy. Getafe can't score. They're a disaster right now and are now fully in the relegation battle, despite everyone saying they were safe for the longest time. Levante, they've turned a corner. They drew Barcelona. They which I guess isn't saying too much right now, but they had a really, really poor defensive match against Villarreal where they allowed 5, and they've been a lot better since then. Maybe they were playing backups then, I'm not sure, but they certainly want to go forward and try to score goals, and they have some great scorers and great attackers that can do that. I'm not sure what their lineup's going to look like, but even if they don't have El Comandante, Jose Luis Morales, they have others who can come in there and I think are probably going to be moving other places sooner rather than later, maybe in the summer transfer window or as we get to it in the fall. But they have people that can score, and Getafe really do not. What Getafe has are people that can kind of score from outside the box, penalty takers, which, I mean, that's the easiest way to score, or something that happens every once in a while, because when you play 90 minutes, eventually you're going to score. Really hard to rely on them to score anything. And if this climbs to a full goal, I mean, I don't know how I'm going to avoid it. Even at 3/4, even at a half, I think it's worth it to back Levante here. Next is Betis hosting Huesca. Betis giving half of a goal with all the juice on their side. Looks like it's going to climb to 3/4. Huesca with a huge win against Athletic Club. Doesn't make them safe, but I think has really pushed them out of, not necessarily out of reach, sorry, that's not the right word, but they've definitely gained so much of an advantage because they have a lot of space between them and the other relegation fighters, which are really struggling to put up points and win matches. And we're at a point in the season where draws are not enough. Betis is fighting for Europe, so this is not going to be an easy match for Huesca, but Betis have been very lucky to win matches lately. And I think I guess they did win their last match. I'm going to look at that really quickly. Ended up drawing their last match with Eibar, giving up a late goal. But it's just one of those things, I think, where Betis are better as it starts to climb higher and higher, though, when they haven't really been winning matches for months. And they do have some pressure. Huesca is going to try to – the thing is, Huesca – their defense has been, I think, the shakiest part of their team. They've been able to score goals, but losing 4-3 to Celta de Vigo and other things like that show that they can score goals, but they can also let them in. I think they're going to have to focus more on playing defense against Betis, who have had, I think, some trouble scoring goals themselves, which isn't really expected considering what type of offense they have and kind of who they have at their disposal. Their defense was the biggest issue, and I think that's been better this season. But still, I mean, Marc Bartra still makes big mistakes. I'm not sure if he's going to start, if Sydney's going to come in for him, which he should. They also take a ton of cards and get suspended a lot, and it's just one of those things where I don't know if you ever really want to be backing Betis as a big favorite. And as this continues to climb, my interest in Huesca also climbs. Sociedad then host Valladolid. Currently, Sociedad giving 3/4 of a goal. Valladolid, I think, must win. And they're in a position now where it's really hard to back them because they ultimately, the way they want to play is to sit back and counter. And I'm not sure that they have the ability to do that because even a good draw on the road at the Real Arena against a good side like Sociedad, who looks like they're going to be the Europa League qualifier, automatic qualifier from Spain. I'm not sure that this is the club that they can do that against, because they're going to need to, unless they counter and get a goal early, which I think is really hard to expect from Valladolid, because they're unlikely to score many goals pretty much anytime. So that is one of those things where, unfortunately, it's hard to really see them playing a different way than they played all season, knowing they need points with that pressure plus pushing forward. When you have Oyarzabal and Porto and Alexander Isak's speed up top, Sociedad, I don't know that they deserve to be a quarter goal favorite, but they're going to be playing in a way that they want to, with a lot more opportunities than I think you want to give them. Next, 2 more left in Spain, all at the same time. It's going to be crazy this weekend. But Valencia pick them to Eibar right now. Eibar with all the juice on the road. Looks like it might climb to a quarter of a goal favorite. Valencia's played a little bit better, but they relieved their manager, went with a different one to try to kind of sew up the back. It's been better, but they have plenty of issues. I mean, played Sevilla pretty tightly, lost 1-0, but I don't think that's a huge problem. They played Barcelona pretty close, made them concerned, to say the least, but at the same time, that's not a glowing endorsement considering how poorly Barcelona finished the season. But Eibar were league bottom, got a good draw this week and had 2 wins. And so that puts them in a position where they still need points. The Huesca victory was a big problem for them. Looking at the table right now, they're still bottom, tied with Elche, and then 1 behind Valladolid, but they're all automatic relegations, no playoff here, I don't think. So they're ultimately 3 points behind Huesca, and they have 2 matches to make that up. So Elche probably can't sit back and defend. Valladolid, I think, can't do that either. That win was just so huge, because 3 points basically takes this weekend's matches of trying to get draws. Even if they got 2 of them finishing up in Valladolid with Atletico Madrid last match of the season, they can't afford to sit back. And I'll come back to the Eibar game in a second. Elche, I think, is in a similar situation, and these clubs have 5, 6, and 6 wins all season. So it's it's a bad scenario to be in. Eibar, pick them on the road at the Mestalla against Valencia would never happen, and doesn't really make any sense to me. If this moves to a quarter, I don't know how I'm going to avoid Valencia, who are safe, but I think are still playing, because this has been embarrassing season for them. And Eibar is going to be playing a high line, which is going to give plenty of opportunities to the Valencia attackers, who have been their best part of their team all season. I'm not sure that they're have done enough to really cover their defense, and that's why they were potentially removing their manager and trying to get someone to caretake and basically wheel them over the line to avoid relegation, which is crazy for a club the size of Valencia. But ultimately, Eibar as a favorite just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. They've been playing better lately, but ultimately they're bottom of the table for a reason, and it's because they didn't win between January and May, or the beginning of May. And then lastly, Villarreal hosting Sevilla. Sevilla doesn't have much to play for, but pride is still important to them, and Lopetegui's still, this is one of those situations where you could see a bunch of players being rotated. I don't think they still think they have a belief at winning the title. I think Barcelona foolishly thinks that they could do it. Maybe they do. I don't know. But Villarreal certainly has their eyes set on the Europa League final as their chance to get into the Champions League. Currently tied for the last Europa League spot. But I think Real Betis have the head-to-head on them, so not worried about checking that at this point. But currently Sevilla is a pick-em on the road. Villarreal have all the juice, so this might even climb to Sevilla getting a quarter on the road, which is a big number. It doesn't really make a lot of sense based on table standings, but could mean that Sevilla is resting a lot of players. I still think Villarreal and Unai Emery, they have one eye at the very least, if not both, or 1.5 eyes, if you can do that, on the Europa League. So it's very possible you might see rotation on both sides, and Sevilla's got a better club, deeper pockets. So that would interest me as well. This has been already 35 minutes, so going to try to go a lot quicker here. Going through Italy. So we have Genoa hosting Atalanta. Atalanta giving 2 goals, all the juice on the Genoa side, but Atalanta's been, I think I've already referenced it in this video live stream, that Atalanta is just so much better than the bottom of the table. Genoa has been, I think, a lot better under their new manager. I think scoring goals has been an issue for them. And the problem is that you're going to have to score goals to keep up with Atalanta. Once that first goal goes in, the second one is just as likely, or excuse me, way more likely than the first. I don't believe that Genoa is good enough defensively to really hang on and hold Atalanta off the scoreboard for too long. So they're going to have to score with them. And I don't believe that they can. Then Spezia host Torino. Currently, Spezia getting a quarter. All the juice on the Spezia side. Torino's played better ever since looking like they were bottom of the table and like they were about to be done. But they have made a great run. A lot of that's from playing a very offensive brand of football. And Spezia have been kind of hanging around the drop zone, but doing enough to stay out of it. And I think currently getting a quarter at home is a nice spot to be backing Spezia. But there's so much juice right now that I'm not sure that I want to do that. Juve then hosts Inter. Currently, Juve giving a quarter of a goal with most of the juice on their side. As this keeps climbing, Juve has been so bad, are in the fight to get in the Champions League. What a disaster Pirlo has been as a manager. And I think it's one of those things where if you can find a big club that's employing a manager who doesn't deserve their position, a la Frank Lampard and a la Pirlo, those are the clubs to go against. And we've seen what happened when a real manager, Thomas Tuchel, came in at Chelsea, and we'll see what happens with Juve, because they've got plenty of other problems that run a lot deeper, and financials are a big one of those. Inter, they won the Scudetto. They don't have anything to worry about. They're playing for contracts, if they are even doing that, because a lot of people, I'm sure, are moving after the season because they need to trim their wage bill. But they surely have a lot of motivation to keep Juve out of Champions League and try to set back that club even further as one of their bigger rivals besides Milan. So every time this line climbs, I'm more interested in Inter with no pressure. I think they're still going to try to put out they're going to give a great effort to try to put Juve out of Champions League. So very interested in getting a quarter, and more interested if this keeps climbing. Roma then hosts Lazio, another huge rivalry match on the penultimate day of Serie A. Roma getting a quarter of a goal with almost all the juice on their side. Would try to trick you to back Roma, and I guess it's technically in a stadium they share, so nobody's home here, and it makes sense that Lazio's favored, as they've been a lot better. Roma's been a disaster, and getting in Jose Mourinho is not going to help them, I don't think. But I guess good for them for trying. It's not going to work, but Lazio is going to be able to score a bunch of goals. I'm not sure that Roma is going to A, keep them out, or B, be able to keep up. So I'm interested in Lazio. Hopefully this falls to pick them, but I'm not even sure I want to have too much to do with that right there. Lazio does have some pressures trying to qualify for Champions League. I think they're in that race. But anyway, regardless. Next, moving to Sunday, Fiorentina hosting Napoli. Fiorentina getting a full goal. Big number. Napoli's been a ton better than they have. Fiorentina was lucky, I think, to get to safety. They've shown that they were not very good this season, but have survived. Napoli, with a lot of pressure on them, trying to win as many matches as possible. With a ton of issues in the club or in the club offices with the manager and et cetera, et cetera. But the players have been good. They've been hotter lately, and they have one of the easier run-ins across Italy. So getting this win would be helpful. Fiorentina, we'll see what the lineup looks like, but it's very possible that we don't know if they care too much about this match. But getting a full goal is a big number for Napoli to lay. They've shown that they can kind of steamroll the inferior clubs, but I'm not sure Fiorentina counts as that despite where they sit in the standings. So that's why I'm interested in +1. Benevento then giving a full goal to Crotone with all the juice on the Benevento side. Benevento have to win to try to escape relegation. Crotone's defense has been the worst in, I think, Serie A ever, and they're relegated, and who knows how much they care. It's really tempting, though, to be against a side like Benevento that must win. And if that first goal goes in, or if they just don't score for a while or something like that, pressure will build and build and build, and they'll explode. Udinese then hosts Sampdoria. Pick them, I think, in a match that doesn't matter for either of them. most of the juice on the Udinese side. As this climbs, I'll be more interested in Sampdoria, but they have shown that they can't score goals. So it's really hard to want to back a team that can't score, especially because Udinese have shown that they want to play counter-attacking football. I'm not sure Sampdoria. There's a lot of ifs in this one, so I'm not even going to waste my time on that anymore. Parma getting a goal at home against Sassuolo. Sassuolo is going to really control the ball, take a lot of chances on goal. Parma's down, and not sure how much fight they'll give. AC Milan then giving a goal and a quarter to Cagliari. Cagliari has been playing so much better. Had a huge win, maybe controversial, against Benevento, which has almost made them safe. Not necessarily just yet, I don't think. But AC Milan's in this fight for Champions League. They really haven't been great. How they won 3-0 against Juve, I'm not sure, but it was a big win for them and good for the added confidence that comes with that. But Donnarumma's been playing like a insane person, and I think AC Milan having to win by more than a goal is a huge number. Cagliari, though, to be fair, have been playing very offensively, and that might not be the side to do it against a big club that has a huge wage bill that can kind of rifle through you. And then lastly, on Monday, Verona hosting Bologna. Verona giving it's pick 'em right now, actually, but all the juice on their side might climb to a quarter. Verona has been really bad. Bologna has done nothing to make you think that they're going to be any good. So as it starts climbing to Bologna being an underdog, maybe there's some interest there from me. Then moving to Spain. So Hertha Berlin, pick 'em to Cologne. Good relegation battle here. Pick 'em at home for Hertha is with almost all the juice on their side. Makes sense. I think they've played better since the quarantine than I think anybody expected. But that's a lot of miles in those legs. And Cologne are just one of those clubs that constantly go up and down. And it seems like this year it's almost been inevitable, even though they look somewhat safe. It's not gone very well for them. The loss to Freiburg last weekend was pretty tough, falling behind 2-0 early and then missing a penalty that could have equalized. A lot of bad things that could have happened. They've been playing better, but I think Anderson got hurt, and he's been a huge key to their offense, and they just really struggle to score. And if they're in a position where they have to score to win the match, that's going to put them in an even more disastrous position, unfortunately. Schalke then getting 2 from Frankfurt. Frankfurt trying to fight into Champions League. Schalke down, disaster, up 2-0 on Hoffenheim, and looks pretty good for a half and lost 4-2. And I think that was lost half because I think it closed a goal in 3/4 after being +2 for a little while last weekend. So just brutal, and I'm not sure how you can back a team that's going to ship 4 goals in a half. Bielefeld, pick 'em to Hoffenheim. Bielefeld fighting out of relegation. Hoffenheim pretty safe. But pick 'em, calling these teams even seems a little bit excessive to me. So maybe some money will come in. More of the juice is on Hoffenheim's side, but we'll see what happens with that number. Leverkusen giving half of a goal to Union. Union was never really fighting for Europe, but it's been a nice story, talking point that they've been somewhat close. Leverkusen's new manager has not been impressive. They haven't really scored many goals. They've done better defensively, but I think we've shown their frailties offensively, and they needed to kind of play that aggressive style under Peter Bosz. Union's going to sit back, defend, make Bayer Leverkusen try to break them down. They've had some trouble lately in hanging in matches, but some fortunate goals or late goals that they allowed, like the one to Dortmund to really just bust up a +1 was really not fun. But Dortmund's great at scoring late goals. Is something I've noticed from them this season for sure, as I've been on the wrong end of that. But Union's interesting. All the juice on Leverkusen right now at a half. If this keeps climbing, I'll be more interested in backing my guys from the east side of Berlin. Gladbach then giving a 3/4 of goal to Stuttgart. Hard to know after getting thrashed and entering halftime 4-0 behind at Bayern, when Bayern might have been celebrating their championship early. Apparently not. They were celebrating by scoring goals. Stuttgart, though, have no offense to speak of, and so they're just too hard to back, even as a big underdog against a Gladbach side that really haven't looked good since Marco Rose said he was moving to the other Borussia. Freiburg getting a goal in 3/4 from Bayern München. play them really tightly. Deserved potentially a draw in Munich when they played on a snowy day, I think it was, or whenever during the heat of winter. Bayern, I'm not sure what their lineup's going to look like, but Freiburg have basically shown they need the ball to try to score goals, or if they can try to get on you early. And if they can't do that, they're going to have trouble scoring. They're going to need a lot of chances, and their defense is really poor. I'm repping the shirt right now, but I have low expectations for them, to say the least. And hanging close to 2 goals but not getting there is probably not enough for me. I'm not sure what number is enough, but I've lost enough money betting against Bayern Munich, and I think I've learned my lesson. Next, Augsburg and Werder Bremen pick 'em, with Augsburg has all the juice on their side, might even climb to a quarter of a goal. If they're given a quarter of a goal, this is one of those, I am going to hate myself for backing Werder Bremen. As I've said over and over, I won't do it. But Augsburg is unable to score goals, and they have been such a disaster. They had a stretch for like a month where they were getting monstrous lines, and I was fortunately cashing on them. That stopped, unfortunately. But they have not been playing well. They're not a good offense. They're not a good team. Werder Bremen is not either, and this is probably going to be one of those nail biters that will be really fun to watch, because both these teams will be freaking out the whole time. But that doesn't help a favorite. So if Augsburg moves to a quarter goal of a favorite, I'm interested. I don't know that getting odds on Werder Bremen to win is enough, because I think this looks like a draw. So I'm going to be holding out for a quarter. Moving to Sunday, Mainz getting 1.25 goals from Dortmund. Mainz has been playing great. Not much more you can say about that. Dortmund fighting for Champions League. Really fortunate to get a victory after heading in 2-0 on Leipzig. They had the Pokal final in the midweek, so legs are going to be questionable, and they're fighting like heck with all the pressure to try to qualify for Champions League. Mainz, what an incredible story, from league bottom tied with Schalke at Christmas to then this kind of position that they found themselves in. Awesome. What a job by their manager. Got some luck during the way for sure, but winning against Bayern and almost beating them twice, really, but winning against Bayern in the Hinterhunde or whatever it's called. Sorry, Germans, if anybody from Germany is watching. But Dortmund has really not been that impressive, and it's really hard to want. I'm so tempted. Dortmund's been crushing me lately, but they're not a good team. Haaland was back for the Pokal final. We'll see if he plays 2 matches in a row right next to each other, as that might affect some sale proceeds if he gets injured or something. But I'm sure they're more worried about Champions League, because they're going to have to completely disband the team if it doesn't work out, if they don't qualify. But I'm interested in Mainz. They've been playing great. This is a monstrous number, above 1. And he'll probably lose by Jadon Sancho running by himself in the 88th minute, or maybe even worse, 92nd. Next is Leipzig giving a quarter of a goal to Wolfsburg. Wolfsburg fighting to stay in Champions League. Rest advantage for sure. Leipzig, their offense has been pretty bad. These two did play in the Pokal, and Leipzig got a late goal to really just blow everything up, if I remember correctly. Leipzig has looked pretty poor. I don't know where they fell behind 2-0 to Dortmund the last time they played in league play, then tied it, and then somehow just looked completely inept in giving up the last goal, which they, I guess, were maybe potentially pushing forward to try to keep Bayern from celebrating the championship. But they've been unable to beat Borussia Dortmund, and then just basically giving them a shot in the arm of confidence before the Pokal final as they try to get their first championship. Just doesn't, like, Nagelsmann's moving on. Maybe that's affected some mentalities, but I feel like he's pretty overrated, in my opinion. I guess he's done very well at Leipzig, but who in Germany really spends money besides Dortmund and Leipzig and Bayern, to be quite honest? Leverkusen didn't really do that. They brought in like loans, and then Gladbach, same side, really. It just seems like Germany, maybe this was a result of coronavirus, or maybe this is just how it goes. But Wolfsburg, the problem is that they are really tough to rely on to score. They sure might get some crazy goals from Brekalo, who hasn't been playing at all against Union last time out. Incredible. And then like lucky goals after that. And somehow he got a hat trick, which if you bet that, I would love to know the Powerball numbers. But ultimately getting a quarter of a goal with almost all the juice on the Leipzig side as this keeps climbing. My interest in Wolfsburg keeps climbing as well. And then last but not least, as I try to keep this under an hour. Wow, this is going long. We're going to France, to Ligue 1. Everything at the same time, Sunday afternoon. There's going to be I'm going to be streaming so much at the same time. This is going to be brutal. Bordeaux getting a quarter of a goal from Lens. Lens fighting for that Europa League spot. Bordeaux potentially getting in bankruptcy. Like, yikes. Not enough for me to want to back a team that might not be paying their players. Dijon, 1.25 goal underdog to Nantes right now. Nantes needs victories to try to climb out of relegation. Dijon is down and have been the worst team in the league, so hard to really say too much about that one. Lille giving a goal and a quarter to Saint-Etienne, who've been playing better lately. But Lille are going to sit back, defend, and make it really hard for Saint-Etienne to score. And if they can get an early goal, like that early penalty they got last weekend, then that'll be a huge, huge, huge thing for them. And we'll see what happens. But Saint-Etienne's been playing pretty well lately and getting more than a goal from a team that's fighting to win the championship and stay on top. A win is probably necessary to keep PSG at bay, but still, Lille's got I'm sure if they haven't beat down their legs yet, it's coming, especially as we get to the end. But an early goal would really settle the nerves, and that would make it very hard for Saint-Etienne even to really hang on to winning a half unit, getting a goal and a quarter. So we'll see what happens to that number. Lorient then giving 3/4 a goal with all the juice to Metz. Metz doesn't have much to play for and certainly could be on the beach, but they've been playing an open style of football all season and have been pretty successful with it while Lorient is fighting relegation. They played Lyon pretty tight for a half last weekend, but then ended up not being able to do enough and losing. And we'll see what happens. But ultimately, I'm interested in Metz, especially if this climbs to a full goal of insurance, as some of these Ligue 1 lines have been climbing to kind of astronomical prices. If you thought about Montpellier last week against Strasbourg, that was an example. Next is Marseille giving a full goal with all the juice right now to Angers. Angers' manager's leaving end of season. They've been a disaster for the past month, so I'm not sure I can back them, though. Marseille giving a goal right now to anybody sounds like a ridiculous price, especially as it climbs to a goal and a quarter and all those sort of things. I'm going to try not to bet it, but I'm interested. Monaco then giving 3/4 to Rennes is a big number. Rennes has been playing really well, fought back after falling behind to a Neymar penalty to earn a draw, to really do a huge service to Lille's title chances last weekend in the nightcap. Monaco has been playing better, but ultimately they're still not the strongest side. They're fighting for that last relegation or Champions League spot, whereas Rennes is trying to fight for Europa League. Both these teams have a lot to play for. I don't know that a draw really works for either of them, but they need points for sure in their races that they're both in at the moment. And Rennes been playing pretty well under the new manager. Had a good run recently. That was unbeaten run extended against PSG when they got that late equalizer and maybe almost won again at the end. And this kind of seems like a big number. Montpellier then giving a 1/4 goal to Brest. I don't have much energy to spend on that one. Montpellier should be able to score goals, and Brest struggles to do that sort of thing, even against a bad defense like Montpellier's. Nice getting a 1/4 from Strasbourg. So Strasbourg with a big number last weekend against Montpellier, giving a full goal. Here they're giving a 1/4 on the road at Nice, and looks like this might be a half of a goal. Strasbourg have been like fighting relegation. They've had some good results, playing some good teams tough, but like not winning those matches, I don't think. Like getting draws against PSG, against Lille are nice, but when you can't beat the teams around you, that's how you start falling further and further down into relegation pressure. Nice isn't in that situation. They've had a bad year, sacked their manager very early in the season, but they brought in some like loanees to play center back, and that's really stabilized them. They've got some great offensive players up front, so I'm interested in Nice for sure as a home underdog. I mean, I don't think fans are going to be there, so I don't know that necessarily matters, but travel for sure from the east side of France down to the southeast to go to Nice is certainly somewhat distracting. Maybe the weather too, but Strasbourg. It seems like along those lines that they were dominated last week as a 1-goal favorite when they shouldn't have been. So I'm not really hesitating to have an interest in Nice. Nîmes getting a goal and a half from Lyon, big number. Lyon need to keep pushing for that Champions League spot. I think the league is out of their hands now. It's impossible. I'm not sure if it is mathematically, but it basically is. But anyway, Lyon, they survived having a makeshift back line last weekend because Lorient didn't really threaten them too much. And eventually once Aouar had an awesome control for the first goal, and they got a bunch more back to back. And Nîmes is in a situation where they're fighting relegation. They've been playing a lot better up and down. Finally, I think won as a favorite in their last match, and that's been certainly better. But they need points. Lyon is going to be able to score goals, and Nîmes is going to have to fight back to score, and that's going to be a big question. I'm not sure necessarily that they can do that, even against a Lyon side that has been a little bit questionable defensively and certainly have had suspensions to deal with. And last but not least, PSG giving 2.5 to Rennes is just a huge number. Even if Rennes has been drinking champagne for the last 2 weeks because they're still in the league, I think they're still a proud club that expects to be in Liga. Not one of the biggest, but PSG giving this massive number doesn't really make a lot of sense. I guess that says that Mbappe is coming back, but after seeing Neymar had success early and then they just ran out of gas, it seemed like, against Rennes and had to hold on for a draw. Seeing them, they're going to have to get a bunch of goals early if they're going to get past Rennes, who have been really great against the spread or like a great unbeaten run. Hung around, I guess not anymore an unbeaten run, but hung around with Monaco after an early goal last weekend and almost looked like they were going to escape with a point. Massive number against PSG, and PSG continues to get huge prices and not really being able to support them. And I feel like I've missed a lot of opportunities doing that this season going against them. Rennes have shown that they can hang with people. They're not great, but that's going to be on my card. I think, unfortunately, the PSG polish is just really nail polish. There's still some ugly nails there underneath the pink polish or red and blue polish, whatever you call it. And I'm going to quit that analogy now. Okay, so that almost went an hour. I think it's a personal record, but hope there's some things of value in there. And if you guys got any questions, throw them at me, _G Warner on Twitter. And I'll see you guys in the next one.